New York's subway shooter, 62-year-old Frank James, has been caught. To be fair, he caught himself. The subway terrorist left Brooklyn after shooting 10 people and traveled to the most secure borough of New York City, the borough of Manhattan, where effectively everything is under surveillance. There's a camera pretty much on every single corner, if not several. 29 hours passed, and he finally just called police to the East Village to come find him. And they did. Another terrorist suspect captured after the attack. Once again, it was too little too late. Somehow, the FBI claims they had no idea who Frank James was until he shot up a subway station. Something that is a bit hard to understand when you hear the things that this man likes to post all over the internet.
We should not embrace, we should not accept the white devil blood that we have in us because of the way that it was forced upon us. Reject that devil that's in us, even to the point of committing suicide, so to speak. Do a factory reset on our whole humanity and rehabilitate our humanity and cleanse it out.
If you're of African descent, we need to find a way to come together because we have a common enemy. We have colonialists and people who want to dominate us.
So nothing to see there, I guess. Just a clearly disturbed black supremacist talking about cleansing humanity through death. Why would that grab the FBI's attention? Remember, it's white supremacy that truly threatens this country. The most dangerous extremists in this country are white supremacists. They scream this indoctrination at you constantly.
I obviously am very concerned about the rise of extremism and extremism related to white supremacy.
The FBI has warned repeatedly that domestic terrorism fueled by white supremacy is the #1 threat to the United States right now.
White supremacy is the biggest bucket of concern when it comes to domestic terrorism.
Terrorism from white supremacy is the most lethal threat to the homeland today.
Somewhat bizarre that we don't hear too much about actual crimes committed by white supremacists. They sure do like to talk about it, it seems like about every week in Washington. On the flip side, 2 months ago, BLM activist Quintez Brown walked into the campaign office of a Kentucky politician and opened fire. Thankfully, Quintez Brown, the black nationalist, is a terrible shot. 5 months ago, Darrell Brooks Jr. was far more effective. He drove an SUV through a Christmas parade of families, killing 5 people and injuring 50 more. And on Tuesday, Frank James, who gave the FBI so many hints that he was coming. All three can be described as black nationalists, obsessed with race and filled with hate. It's a reminder of the failures of the FBI in recent years. Take a look at all of these terrorists that were known to the Bureau before committing their own atrocities. The FBI was zeroed in on all of these would-be terrorists. They did nothing to prevent their eventual crimes. Also, Manhattan's worst terrorist since 9/11, a Middle Eastern man who drove a U-Haul down the West Side Highway bike path, killing 8 people in 2017. From the New York Times, the Uzbek man charged with using a truck to kill 8 people on a Manhattan bike path last year was recorded on an FBI wiretap the day before the attack and was heard on other calls going back 3 years. Imagine the families of those 8 people killed by that man. But since none of these people were thinking about kidnapping a governor in Michigan or stole Pelosi's laptop, not much action has been taken, and exactly the point, that is. The staggering difference between how your government protects us and how they protect themselves. If you watched the press conference today, several officials were hesitant to even call Frank James a terrorist. They tiptoed around the verbiage, walking on eggshells, most likely because the suspect is black and this country has made race the most dangerous third rail in the world. Take a look.
He will be charged with committing yesterday's appalling crime in Brooklyn.
I'd like to update the public on yesterday's incident on the subway in Brooklyn.
Frank James has been charged by complaint in Brooklyn federal court with 1 count of violating 18 U.S.C. sections 1992 A7 and B1, which prohibits terrorist and other violent attacks against mass transportation systems.
All right, so the last guy finally says the word terrorist or terrorism. He says it passively, however. By comparison, Here's how government officials speak about January 6ers, the vast majority of whom simply walked around inside a government building.
The protesters began their transition from peaceful assembly into terrorism.
To the rioters, the insurrectionists, and the terrorists of that day.
It was the first time I really came face to face with these terrorists.
All right, so the people in the pictures here are terrorists. A terrorist there. Terrorists all over the place, walking around, taking funny pictures. The guy that had the lectern smiling. There he is. Terrorist. And these people are people that the FBI was unsure about until they started slaughtering Americans. The simple truth is there is a difference between a threat to the American people and a threat to the American government. You're starting to see where the priorities lie. The FBI seems remarkably disengaged when the potential target is you. But when the potential target is the government, it is a dramatically different story. They'll lock you away in solitary for months as you await trial for just trespassing on their property. What we've seen over the last couple years shows you everything you need to know about where your government's priorities lie.